Okay, first of all, we will start with a recital of Al-Fatiha. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alamin. Ar-Rahmanir-Rahim. Maliki yawmiddin. Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in. Ihdinas siratal mustaqim. Siratal ladzina an'amta 'alaihim ghairil maghdubi 'alaihim waladdallin. Okay, let's speed it a little bit. First of all, thank you very much to all, I think, beloved students of Faculty of Social Science and Humanities and also UTM students. As you know that today is actually a colloquium and my name is Zaida. My full name is Zaidatun Tasir. You can call me Zaida. So I will share some of my experience in crafting a captivating research type, whether you have your research totally based on data or you might be working with research that will involve without data. So my talk actually today will be focusing on the focus of research with data and without data for a doctoral degree, thesis or masters, or might be you the one who joined us now, you are enrolled into a master top course. Usually sometimes you might be going to conduct research related to without data. And besides that, of course, I will focus also on preparing a conceptual paper that did not have data, because as a doctoral degree students, everybody knows that you need to publish articles in Scopus or in WOS or in my site journals, then you are qualified to submit your doctoral degree thesis. So while waiting for you have data, and usually if you already have data, chances for you to be published in Scopus journals is very high. But however, to wait for your research to get data might be when you reach out to semester 4, then you already have data, and at that moment you already enrolled into the program around 2 years. And of course, I'm not saying that it's late, but you know that to publish in Scopus journal, it will take time. So maybe at that moment, if you plan to publish the first articles, when you reach out to semester 4 or 5, because you wait for the data, it might be a little bit too late. Okay, I'm not sure other student in the lab, but I'm feeling quite hot. Yeah. Sorry for those in Webex. We just would like to switch on the aircon, okay? And then we continue. Okay. So therefore, my station today will share with you on 3 main subtopics, which is actually the important point that you have to know when you decide whether you're going to have data or you're not going to have data, okay, in your research. So first, you have to know a little bit on the research design. Research design is very, very important. Based on my experience as the Dean of School of Graded Study, 6 years at UTM, most of students who receive C or D or E during Viva because of the incorrect research design. When you choose an incorrect research design, of course, everything data instrument out there is invalid. So that's why research design is very important. Okay, so when you would like to understand more about research design, before that, I would like to ask those in WebEx, you get a full screen or you get not a full screen? In WebEx, anyone can respond to me. Do you receive PowerPoint with full screen or in presenter mode? Full screen. Okay, that's good. Great.
Yeah, we have received, ma.
Okay, so you have to know a little bit 2 types of research. Anything that you do research divided into either you do a basic research or you do an applied research. So a basic research usually related to qualitative research, where you develop a theory, okay? And while applied research mostly related to quantitative research or mixed method research, which is actually you test the theory. Okay? So most of our research in education, especially in educational technology, you focusing on applied research. But no doubt, you also can focus on basic research if you want, but you have to do totally qualitative research. Okay. And in education, if you look at the differences between basic and applied research, when you in education and teaching and learning, if you focus on basic research, meaning that you will focusing on the learning theory, human development theory, and then you develop the instructional theory, okay? Difference from applied research, which usually you already have your instructional theory, you apply the instructional theory inside the media, inside any teaching and learning tools, and you combine it with specific teaching methods, and then you test the effectiveness of the instructional teaching and learning methods that you develop that uh, underpin that based on certain theory, then you test it whether it works or not, and might be after that you produce a framework, learning framework, something like that. That is more on applied research. Okay. So when you focus on research design is an action plan. It's very important. I'm not going to explain in detail, but it's a very important element in your doctoral degree thesis. It's a master plan. If you know very well about your research design, of course, it will help you a lot throughout the ways of data collection and everything. Okay. And this is a diagram to show on each certain types of research design have a certain advantages and disadvantages. For example, if you look at um, the external validity versus the internal validity, if you focus on single case study, yeah, the research design that you choose high external validity, but might be a little bit low in terms of internal validity. You know that internal validity and external validity is related to different perspectives. Internal validity is about, okay, where you can focusing on the validity of your finding, okay, while the external validity, usually whether you can generalize your finding or not to other setting. So that's why this is actually a diagram to show you. Okay, another things that you have to know, I think most of you familiar enough with the research onion by Sounder that guide you on choosing the right philosophy, the right approach, the right methodological choice, the right strategy, and the right time horizon of research, technique, and procedure. Okay, although some of us might be not familiar with research philosophy, but the two popular research philosophy that you should know is positivist and interpretivist. If you focus on quantitative research, you are more reflecting the positives. If you focus on qualitative research, you are focusing more on interpretivism because you would like to interpret the findings. Okay, that is in terms of the philosophy. And the philosophy also can be understood by using this. You can see that this is the philosophy, and the philosophy will guide the approach. If you would like to interpret why the phenomenon happen, of course you will do interpretivist, qualitative research, interview, observation. That is where it guides you. But if you just want to see, just to explain what is happening, then you are more focused on positivist, okay? And then you are focusing on the approach of deductive, and is going to be quantitative. That's how you have to know. Some examiners, they like to ask students about this question. Although in the educational technology, most of us know that we are focusing more on positivist. Okay, and this is another diagram to show on the philosophical foundation, the theory, the methodology, and method. And this is another diagram to help you to understand it. Okay, if you're focused on positivist, of course your research is more on explanatory, and you explain it. You might be use survey, performance test, everything, and you might be use inferential statistic, everything. And of course, this nature is more on objectivism and is more focused on quantitative. But if your research is more on exploratory, then your research is going to be interpretivist and it will focus more on qualitative. Okay, mixed mode is a combination of both, both of it. Okay, and it can be sequential, explanatory, mixed method design. It can be a sequential, exploratory, mixed method design. How to differentiate it? Which one will come first? Is it qualitative will come first and followed by quantitative, or quantitative will come first and followed by qualitative? That's how you do it. Okay. And this is actually another diagram to show the relationship between it. Okay, I summarize it into this diagram because I'm teaching research methodology. This is my second semester teaching research methodology. So I try to simplify it because some of us might be, it's really challenging for us to know the relationship between research philosophy and research design. So this is a diagram I interpret it in a table. If you focus on positivist, of course, your reasoning method is more on deductive. You already have the theory, you apply the theory in your approach or in your lesson, in your strategy, then you test the theory. Then, of course, you focus on quantitative, and the design that you might be going to focus is on experimental research or survey research. Imperativism is where you do a inductive reasoning. You try to interpret. Okay, you don't have a theory to interpret it. You will develop the theory at the end of it. So it will more focus on qualitative approach, and the design might be on ethnography, grounded theory, or phenomenology. Okay, critical realism is where you are focusing on the reasoning types of abductive. Adaptive is a combination of inductive and deductive. So this is a combination of qualitative and or quantitative. One of the methods that you can use is historical research. Pragmatism is, again, you are using the reasoning approach of adaptive, and it can actually a combination of approach quantitative and or qualitative. Any of the above can fall under pragmatism. So this is where you need to know a little bit on this part first. Okay, and the type of data, we have two types of data only. Quantitative data, where you can count it, you can produce the mean, you can calculate it. That is where the quantitative data come from. And the qualitative data is where you cannot count it. You're only going to analyze it using content analysis or thematic analysis, narrative analysis, anything. Then you cannot count it, you cannot calculate it, you cannot produce mean, and this is going to be a qualitative data. So these are two types of data that are very popular that you can use. Another diagram to differentiate on the major three types of research approach, or some call it research paradigm. This is actually the quantitative, qualitative, and mixed method. This is where you need to know when you do a research, you do a quantitative, you have to ask yourself, are you going to do an experimental or non-experimental? So if you do an experimental, of course, you have to explore the experimental research design. The popular and the founder of experimental research design is Campbell and Stanley. So that you need to read the books by Campbell and Stanley. If you are doing quantitative and non-experimental, you have to know that you are doing descriptive, comparative, correlational, secondary data survey, or what. You have to reach out to this stage first, then you decide whether your research will have data or not going to have data. What do I mean by the research you have data or not have data? Your research will have data when you start to collect your data through questionnaire, observation, through interview, which you need to collect the data. A research without a data is where you did not collect a new data. You only based on the existing data, okay, that you will analyze it, okay? So if you are doing a qualitative, you have to know whether you will interact with the respondent or you're not going to interact with the respondent. If you interact with the respondent, might be you can select research design for the qualitative research design as calligraphy, phenomenology, case study, grounded theory, critical studies. But if you're not going to interact with the participant, of course, you can just do a historical analysis, non-interactive content analysis. You just do a content analysis without involved with the participant. Okay. And another paradigm is on mixed method. In mixed method, it can be descriptive, it can be explanatory, okay, it can be exploratory. Okay, explanatory, exploratory, it essentially depends on which one is come first. Is it qualitative first? Is it quantitative first? Okay, that is the mixed method. Okay, this is to show you the research design and the quantitative and qualitative. If you are using mixed method, of course you will use both design. Okay, if you claim that you are using mixed method design, might be you are using case study and survey. You can do that. Okay, because it's a mixed method. So you have two methods in your PhD. But if you say that your research is totally quantitative, then you just select one of it here, quantitative. If your research says that you are focusing on qualitative, then you just select any research design under qualitative. There is no right and wrong. Okay, it depends on the problem that you would like to tackle. Okay, and it will reflect also on your research question. Okay. And this is another diagram to differentiate on the research philosophy versus data collection methods. If you are using pragmatism, research philosophy, then you might using a mixed methods or multiple methods. Okay, and of course, if you are using positivist, you will totally focus on quantitative. Okay. But you can use qualitative data, but you are using quantitative. Realism is more on mixed method. Interpretivism is more on qualitative methods. Okay, I think I saw someone is asking in the chat. What is the question? How come interview is not okay? Interview is not a research design. Interview is not a research design. Interview is data collection method. It's not a research design. You have to know, research design is a plan. Interview is a tool. It's a tool for data collection. Okay, I hope you are quite clear, Sumira, because you cannot say that my research design is interview. No. Okay, for example, if we do a survey research, that is a research design, but the instrument is questionnaire, isn't it? It's questionnaire. Okay, so you have to know that. Okay, so let me proceed to the next topic, research with data. Okay, this is popular. This is a common one. You have research with data when you collect data. Okay, frankly speaking, there are two schools of thought. There are two schools of thought on research with data or research without data. Okay? For doctoral degree research. Okay? Some professor, they cannot accept a doctoral degree research concentrate only on research without data. Okay? Doctoral degree thesis must involve data collection. Okay, that is the one school of thought. Another school of thought say that it's okay, I can accept a doctoral degree thesis without collecting data. It's totally based on the existing data, but it must be only part of the doctoral degree thesis, not the whole research objective. Maybe you have 4 research objectives, one of it you did not collect the data. It's totally based on the existing data. You can do that, but not the whole of your doctoral degree thesis. If the whole of your doctoral degree thesis, you did not collect the data, some professors, they cannot accept it. Okay, because you did not went through the process of a researcher, collecting data, design instrument and everything. Okay, you have to be clear on that, and then don't take a risk. If you do a doctoral degree thesis, you must collect your data. But if one of your research objective might be first research objective is focusing on systematic literature review, it's still okay. But there are also professors saying that no, systematic literature review can't be your research objective. It must be only in chapter 2. Okay, some of them are thinking like that. Okay, so for me, my stand is that you can have at least one research question that focusing on systematic literature review, which is you not going to collect the data, but the rest of your research objective must involve data collection. Okay, either qualitative data or quantitative data. Okay, so okay, how do you report the finding? Okay, when you do a research with data, the important part is that how do you report your finding? You have your research question, you collect the data, you analyze according to what types of statistical analysis or qualitative data analysis that appropriate for that types of data and everything. Okay, remember, if you do a quantitative research, your data is quantitative. You have to know there are 4 types of scale of measurement. You have to know that your data fall under which type of scale of measurement. The first one, what you call it, nominal data. Nominal data is where this is a label. Gender, you just label it. Female, male. 1 is for male, 2 is for female. You just label it. You cannot compute mean for gender data. That is where your data fall under nominal. So another second scale of measurement is that if the nominal data, you can rank it. You can see the rank of it. And which one is highest, which one is lowest, which one is moderate. Then if you have that kind of data, then the data is using scale of measurement of ordinal, where you cannot compute mean also, but you can calculate percentage. Okay, how many is rich, how many is poor, how many is moderate in terms of standards of living. Okay, how many you compute percentage. The third scale of measurement is ratio. When you have a nominal data, you can see the rank, and the rank between one data and another data is equal, then it can fall under interval. The interval between data, for example, might be you try to differentiate those who rich is those who actually have income monthly salary 10,000. Those who moderately rich, which is actually have income 5,000. Those who poor, who have no salary, 0. So can you see the interval of 0 and 5,000 is 5,000. The interval between 5,000 and 10,000 is 5,000. So when the interval is equal, is a level, you can see the rank, and the interval is equal, then it falls under interval scale of measurement. You can compute mean, standard deviation, percentage. Of course, you can do that. You can run any inferential analysis, whether you can run inferential or descriptive analysis, whether the inferential is non-parametric or parametric analysis. There are assumptions that you have to fulfill on certain tests. Okay. The next scale of measurement is ratio. You can label it. You can see the order, the rank of it. Each rank has equal interval. And beside that, it has a true 0. True 0 meaning that if the value is 0, meaning that they don't have money. They don't have money. Okay? For example, performance is not ratio. Performance of student is interval types of data, because if you score 0, it does not mean that you don't have knowledge. You don't want to answer the final exam, you get 0. So that's why performance is not ratio types of data. But our case, like the levels of salary, the types of salary, it can be a ratio types of data, because those who don't have money, 0 is totally don't have money. So this is actually the differentiate between the scale of measurement. You have to know the scale of measurement of your data, because this will actually guide on you to report your finding. in reporting a PhD finding, there are elements that you have to know. First, your finding must able to attract readers and examiner attention. If you're just using simple table, simple diagram, it will not attract user or examiner or reader attention, or might be the journals, articles, reviewer. Okay, it must also ease the readers, examiner to understand it. You must actually simplify it so they can understand it without need to ask you why, what does this table mean of? And because when you submit your thesis, nobody ever explain to the examiner, this table is about what, this table is about what. It's totally explained by your writing. Okay, for example, I'll give you an example. If you like to compare two value, okay, how do people compare value? Are you comparing two factors up and below? No, you are comparing right and left. So you are using column. If you want to compare two groups of score, the score of two groups, you should use column to divide the group. Okay, because we are using English or Bahasa Malay, and Malay and English, your writing will start from right, isn't it? Okay, unless you're using Arabic. Arabic, the writing will start from left. Okay, or you are using Korean. Korean, the writing start from up and down. Okay, that's why it depends. But you should, because you will write your thesis in English or in Malay, so that's why you have to use column to compare it. Okay, although some of you say that it's simple, but it will ease the examiner to understand it. Okay, examiner is a busy person. Meaningful. It must be meaningful. It must be something. Why you're using this diagram? It must be something that you would like to highlight it. When you have data, you have to make sure that you are following this step in reporting your finding. It also must be valid. Valid. The finding that you report must be valid and accurate. And the next element is that catchy and unique. When the examiner look at it, or the journals reviewer look at it, they will say, oh, this is a unique diagram. And only you want to have it. Okay? So this is some of examples of how can you report it. If you have data comparing the experimental group and comparison group, okay, or comparison group is the control group, the control group. Okay? In technical, we always use it control group, but in some of journals, they use it comparison group. So what you can do is that, okay, you can do it side by side here, like this data. Okay, you can also use reporting the qualitative data like this, combining the percentage of the teams based on the qualitative data. This is actually okay, this is actually the label. Okay, and then this is actually the definition, and this is actually the example statement, and this is the percentage. Okay, to show it. Okay, and of course, practice to report your finding as a journal article. Nowadays, examiners is looking at reporting of finding like journal articles, meaning that if you've been supervised, if you refer to your supervisor thesis, you have to ask your supervisor, when did your supervisor graduated? If he or she graduated 20 years ago, don't refer his or her thesis anymore, because it's going to be obsolete. Okay, so you should refer the current ways of reporting it. Another way to present it, positive, negative statement. You have a qualitative data. Beside you are reporting on the labels or the themes, you might be reporting how many themes is positive, how many is negative, how many is positive and negative, and so on. Okay, and this is another way to report it. You can see that it has an example of item of subscales, the numbers of items, the subscales, and everything. Different ways of reporting it. Most journals are reporting it like this. Okay, you have this another way to report it. Okay, if you have three groups of samples, and you have the what you call it, the group one, which is actually the negative, definition of online learning. Group 1 is those who define online learning is negative. Group 2 is those who define online learning is neutral. Group 3 is those who define online learning is positive. Can you see that how unique it presents the data, isn't it? It presenting the data in a unique way and easy way to follow it. And this is where you can see that, you can see that here on the negative, this is actually, you can see the frequency, 30 of the respondents saying that the learning task online is something negative about learning task online, something negative about independent learning, and so on. Okay, this is how it represent it. This is another way to represent it. If you have collecting data from certain durations of week, okay, week 1, week 2, week 3, this is where you can actually report it. What is the mean? What is the total number? What is the standard deviation? And what is the trend analysis? Is it cubic? Is it quadratic? Is it trend? Trend is going to be a straight line, linear trend, okay, on the numbers of it. Can you see that this one is totally based on demographic data? This is just based on demographic data because it's just based on desire to drop out. How many is desire to drop out and so on. Okay. Another way to represent it, a diagram. You will use line graph when it involves time. When you have this week 1 to week 10, is represent the time. Of course, you will use the line graph. Okay. Okay, that's correlation. You will do correlation like this. Okay, you're not going to fill in the cell up here because the value is going to be the same. So you can represent your correlation like this. Okay. Yeah, I will give a slide later on. Okay. Data visualization. Data visualization is very important nowadays. Most of journals articles, they will look at the uniqueness of the articles when you have an attractive data visualization. And you should also use these in your thesis when you're reporting your finding, which is actually involved data. So this is how you can do that. Instead of giving the table like this, you can represent it like pie chart, multiple pie chart like this, okay, for data visualization. Or might be instead of using multiple pie chart, you are using multiple bar chart to represent it. So it makes interesting and they will understand it well. Another way is that multiple waffle chart. So you're using waffle chart or large number and text. To show the percentage, you are using the large number of data visualization that you can use. Another way is that stack bar chart. Stack bar chart to ease the examiner to see on the response for each item, or you can use the diverging stack bar chart to differentiate which one is negative, which one is positive. Usually on the right, it's going to be positive. On the left, it's going to be negative. Another way to represent correlation, you can use this kind of diagram to represent the correlation. Okay, and you also can use this way to represent on the response of might be based on Likert on the percentage. Here, we can just make a conclusion. This one is actually the one with high percentage, which is actually stronger. And use a global color. Usually green is for positive one, isn't it? Red or yellow or orange is for the negative one. Okay, so use it, and without looking at this legend, people will know that this green is a positive one. Okay, that is where you can just use it, data visualization. Another technique, you can use a spider chart to represent, or if you have several dimensions like this, you just want to see the compare the mean of each dimension, then you can use a spider chart. Okay, and you also can use this kind of chart to represent it, where you can see that this is the percentage and this is all the themes that related to. If you are using social network analysis, Another way is to represent it, to show the interaction among the students. You can use social analysis notes like this to show the interaction. And another way is that if you combine it with the demographic data or the specific respondent, you can just use it a diagram to show it. Okay. And of course, word cloud also, word cloud also, and bubble graph, a chart like this also can be represent qualitative data instead of using only text-based data. This is also another way, word cloud, ways to represent your finding. Okay, and this is another way. Okay, this is one of the realistic example of my students when she present her PhD finding to what you call it, to explain to the examiner on the increments of the performance, where we categorize the increment categories into 4 types of category. Then we like to show that those who actually in increment category 1 will use a behavior of repeat activities and agent of learning and tutorial. So from here we can just make a conclusion that regardless of which type of increments of the respondent, the repeat behavior, repetition in learning is one of the behavior that will increase their performance. So this is where we actually invent these 4 quadrants about bubble chart, so that it will be used as a unique data presentation in our thesis. Okay. Another way is that to come up with the framework, this is another of my PhD students' frameworks to show on the relationship of the performance and the the levels of students' learning style of different the visual and also the visual learning style. We have 50 students and we also have the other part, but their learning pathway is different, because this is actually related to learning analytic. This is another example of showing the frameworks, although a new frameworks for science learning based on the inductive learning. So you have to be able to compute and critically produce this kind of diagram, so that your diagram will be a unique diagram that will be referred and cited by other researcher, and it will attract the journals, the journal reviewer who will analyze or will review your articles. Okay. Then we done on research with data. Of course, research with data is that you have to collect your data using questionnaire, using observation, and you have to remember data collection is so rich right now. If this room will be wired by if we have a CCTV, in this room, CCTV is also one source of data. Okay, like for example, we have our friends from WebEx. Okay, from WebEx also, if everybody's on their camera, okay, from WebEx also can be one source of data. Okay, this is where research with data. Okay, another popular ways, which is actually most of PhD students at the early stage of their study, they will produce what we call it articles without data. Meaning that when you in the semester 1 or semester 2, you did not collect your data yet, but you would like to publish articles, so that it will make you later on, if you submit your thesis, you already have an article, isn't it? So research without data, usually one type of research without data is historical research. Historical research is where you sit or you just spend your time in the library working with the ancient data, okay, from several sources. Then you start to analyze the data. Okay, usually historical research relies heavily on existing historical record, document, artifacts, other sources of evidence. In the Islamic studies, historic types of research, they are using historical research. For example, in Islamic study, they like to analyze a character. Right? For example, you would like to do a research related to the successful leaders in the world, which might be, yeah, it depends. It depends on which leader that you focus. If you thought that you focus on Abraham Lincoln, then you focus on Abraham Lincoln. And then you analyze all the writing about Abraham Lincoln, and you start to analyze it and combine this data and that data, and then you come up with a new finding. That's going to be an historical research. Historical research involves several steps like this because it helps in understanding the past society, often related presenting in the narrative form. You will reconstruct the historical narrative. You will develop critical thinking skill. You are more knowledgeable about the culture. You preserve the cultural heritage. You give understanding of multiple perspectives, and you study of past event, people, and society. Okay, and society. So usually you will use qualitative. Historical research fall under qualitative research. Okay. Another popular research without data is literature-based research. Now it's quite popular, but you have to know, as I did mention, not all professors accept literature-based research can be a doctoral degree research. Okay, it must be something add together with data that you collect by yourself. So literature-based research is sometimes known also as literature review or secondary research. Usually it involves systematic examination, investigation on the existing data. And this type of research does not involve conducting new experiment. You're not going to involve any new experiment. You are based on the existing article. And with this, there are several types of review research. It depends. And this is a review families by Sutton 2019. So you can see that review can fall under systematic review. It also can fall into review of review. What does it mean, review of review? Might be you collect all the systematic literature review article, then you start to review it back. Is it? You are doing review on the existing systematic literature review article. You can do that. Okay. And review, traditional review. This is the common types of review. The rapid review, the qualitative review, is the mixed method review, and also the purpose specific review. Scoping review is where you start to scope on certain research focus. That's why it falls under purpose specific review. Okay, but the one that if you would like to produce articles, and if you would like to have one research objective that focusing on the finding from systematic literature review, then you should use the type of systematic review as the method. Okay, so and this is to differentiate, okay, which one is bigger, which one is smaller. Okay, usually if you do individual fashion data, we call it IPD meta-analysis, that's going to be the one that really focus. Actually, reviews, literature-based research has come from the medical area, not from education. But it's quite popular because you know what? In the medicine, they would like to review on previous patient because they would like to know what makes this patient poor, what this patient worse, and so on. So if you do a systematic review, you are doing more than meta-analysis, because meta-analysis is actually you are only going to analyze previous research that focusing on experimental research design only. If you do a meta-analysis review, you're only going to analyze previous research finding that use experimental research design only. Because in meta-analysis, you will compare the effect size of the intervention that have been conducted in specific research area. But systematic review usually is where you would like to see the trend, the gaps, and so on. And of course, other types of review fall under the bigger circle outside it. Okay, and this is another diagram to explain it, the advantages and disadvantages and the application of each part of review, and what are the guidelines that you can use. Remember, Prisma is a common guideline. You can use it in scoping review, you can use it in systematic literature review, it depends. But usually it has been introduced for systematic literature review and meta-analysis. Okay, but people can use it for the other types of review. So it depends. You can read this. This is, for example, the meta-analysis quantitative. What is the advantages, disadvantages, scoping reviews, and so on. Okay. So, and if you ask me, okay, the one that I highlighted down here, this is where we will use it. The one that scoping review, conceptual review, and state of the art review. This is the one, the popular one that we use for our chapter 2. Okay? And in chapter 2, it's not a must for you to do systematic literature review. You can just do a critical review. But if you would like it to be one of your research objective, will be finding from a review types of analysis, I suggest you to have systematic literature review as part of, if you would like it to be one of your research objectives. Maybe one first research objective to analyze the dimensions of leaderships among school teacher. You would like to see what are the dimensions of leadership from the previous research. Then you will conduct systematic literature review. Okay, but it's not a must. It's not a must. You can just do a critical analysis. But if you do a critical analysis, might be you don't have a specific research objective on finding the dimension. Okay, it's just going to put it in your chapter 2. So in systematic literature review, you have the Prisma. This is Prisma methods. Okay, and then you can decide after you've done the Prisma, you just want to do bibliometric analysis, because bibliometric analysis is more technical. You just want to see how many research on this year, how many research after this year, how many research during COVID-19, how many, that is bibliometric review. It's just a technical. Okay, or you decide to be systematic literature review plus meta-analysis. If the research is focusing on experimental research, then you might end up with meta-analysis. Okay, so it depends. Or, okay, then that is where, if you differentiate this kind of research without data, systematic literature review versus meta-analysis versus bibliometric analysis, you can see that SLR is a process that you collect relevant evidence on certain topic. Okay, then you feed it into the pre-specified eligibility criteria. You decide the criteria as a researcher, and you will use it to answer your formulated research question. Okay, meta-analysis is where you use a statistical method. Please, now, starting from now, if you report your chapter 2, don't ever see that you are conducting meta-analysis unless you are analyzing all the experimental research using statistical method. Then you can claim that you are using meta-analysis. Usually your chapter 2 might be reached out to critical analysis or might be up to systematic literature review. But it's not a must to reach out to systematic literature review. It's not a must. Critical review also is just now. Okay? But if you claim that you're using meta-analysis for chapter 2, of course people will ask more, you must analyze experimental research only, because meta-analysis is looking at the effect size of a series of abundance of experimental types of research, and it must involve statistical method. Okay, and bibliometric analysis is just an approach to set a quantitative methods. You just want to measure, you want to track, you want to analyze the scholarly literature, and it's just a process of bibliometric data to analyze trend in research. You just want to analyze the trend in research. Okay, that is bibliometric. But of course, doing this, either one of it, you can publish articles before you collect your own data. As I did mention, if you would like to wait till you have all the complete data, then you produce might be any Scopus journal. I'm not saying that it's too late, but waiting for the paper to be published will take time, isn't it? So it's better that you practice yourself by semester 2. Maybe you all have at least one systematic literature review or bibliometric analysis articles to be published. Okay, and SLR, okay, can be explained. Some people explain SLR as a research method. It's not a research design. Okay, SLR is not a research design. It's a research method. Can be explained as research method. Okay, and meta-analysis usually is a quantitative format where you will do the epidemiological study design. Where the bibliometric analysis is a quantitative study of physical published unit of bibliographic data. Okay, and which one that should you use? Okay, SLR for me, SLR is finding a research gap. You would like to develop new research ideas, gain critical thinking skills, in synthesizing existing literature. Bibliometric might be if you just want to identify the hot topic. And the hot topic, you would like to track the history of the research on the topic, or you would like to predict the future trend. Okay, then you use bibliometric. And the meta-analysis is where you would like to focus on more robust result because you will analyze the effect size for each articles that use experimental research. Then you report it properly, and then you analyze it back. That's why you call it meta-analysis. What does this mean, meta? Meta is a repetitive words of the next word that follow it. For example, meta-analysis about analysis about analysis. Meta-cognitive. Cognitive is about thinking. Thinking about thinking. That's how you do it. Meta-Zaida. Zaida about Zaida. That's how you interpret meta. Meta-words. Words about words. The world about the world. That is where. Okay, so meta-analysis usually overcome the issue of small sample size. Okay, for example, let's say you are doing experimental research. You will do an experimental research that will involve the Vice Chancellor of Research University. How many Vice Chancellors we have in Malaysia for research university? 5, isn't it? How can you do an experimental research only from 5 samples? But you have to do it. You just want to compare, okay, these 5 research university. You know that one is actually in Southern Peninsula Malaysia, UTM. The other one is in Penang, USM, the northern part, the southern part. 3 of them is in the middle part of Peninsula Malaysia. So might be you would like to do a comparative experimental research comparing the location of this research university. Okay, might be in Penang, Thailand, might be affects the way that the research in USM. Singapore is affecting what you call it, Johor as a UTM. So you have 3 group of sample for experimental research, but you only have 1, 3 and 1. How come you have experimental research in a very small scale of sample? So this is where you can do that. Remember, t-test, you can analyze t-test for 1 sample. You can do that, but be careful in analyzing it. So if you do a research that involves small sample size in experimental research, what you can do that you can top up your finding with meta-analysis finding. Okay, might be the effect size of UTM in terms of the performance in research or publication might be 0.8. The effect size of USM 0.6. The effect size of 3 university in the middle parts of Malaysia 0.7. So you want to compare the effect size. What you can do is that you find other research on experimental research about the performance of research university in Australia, in Japan, in Korea. Find the effect size. Do a meta-analysis to support your finding with a really small sample of research university in Malaysia. Remember, if you do that, of course, the evidence say that you are really a very smart researcher. That's how you do it, meta-analysis. Okay, and the diagram for SLR, this is where how you can understand, you plan it, you conduct it, and when you report it, it depends whether you will report it as a critical analysis, or you report it as bibliometric analysis, or you report it as meta-analysis. Meta-analysis. Okay, that is how you do it. But all of them is go through the process of systematic literature review. Someone is asking about attendance link. I've been asked Dr. Fadil to say that there's no attendance taking, if I'm not mistaken. I asked Dr. Fadil, is there any link for attendance? He mentioned to me that no need to take an attendance. So there's no attendance link, okay? Okay, so another point that I would like to highlight is that, okay, remember you have research with the data, how you have to present it in unique ways. I already give you 5 tips. You have also research without data with systematic literature review, bibliometric, any types of review. That is the research without data. But another thing that I would like to share is that besides having systematic literature review or bibliometric or meta-analysis, you also can produce an article based on your theoretical and conceptual framework. This is what we call it as conceptual concept paper. Okay, in the concept paper, okay, there are 4 types of concept paper. There are 4 types of concept paper. So the first part is where if you're focusing on synthesizing the theory, okay, if you're focusing on synthesizing the theory, your theoretical framework might be looking at more conceptual paper. Sorry, your conceptual paper will synthesize the theory. Then it belongs to the category 1. But most of us, as for PhD student, we are doing number 4. When you produce your theoretical and conceptual framework, you are doing a concept paper number 4, which is actually focusing on model. Okay, model is where you actually building a theoretical framework. Okay, and I have example. If you plan to do a concept paper, okay, there is an outline that you need to follow. Okay, and I have samples of concept paper that has been published in Scopus Journal, meaning that when you're able to produce your theoretical frameworks and conceptual framework, you can actually sit for a while and produce a concept paper article. So this is actually a sample of, this is a sample of concept paper article that have been published in Scopus Journal. The title of this paper is A Conceptual Model for Teachers' Continuous Professional Development Through Lesson Study, Capturing Input, Process, and Outcome. So if I scroll it, you can see that there's no data. They're only a review about the previous research. Okay, this is where the previous research and this article try to categorize the previous research into those who focusing on input, those who focusing on process, those who focusing on output. Okay, and you can see that this is one of the example of it, and it just explain it. It just explain it and present it in a very interesting ways. Okay, and they don't have data, they don't have methodology, they just present it. So it's published in Scopus journals. Okay, another one that I would like to share. Wait. Sorry. Okay, this is another one, but this is not in our area, but it's related to, let me move it a little bit. Okay, it's related to accessibility and equity, a conceptual framework and research agenda. So this is also a Scopus journal. You can imitate these articles so that you can produce your conceptuals or concept-based articles for you to publish in Scopus journal. So you can see it. It's just a simple paper. It's about 5 pages only, if I'm not mistaken. But it gives the diagram or the theoretical framework, which is actually here. Okay, I scroll it. I scroll it properly. Okay, so this is actually the diagram. You can see the research. Where is it? The conceptual model. It explains the conceptual model. Okay, this is the conceptual model. And then it explains also the, sorry, I have to scroll it slowly. The research challenge and everything. So there's no specific structure. And how do you do that? This is actually the outline for a concept paper, which actually have no data. You can start with introduction, where you define the problem, and later on, you focus on the background and the rationale. You focus on your research question and methodology. Okay, to make it interesting, produce a table. Produce a table to show that this is your research question, this is your methodology, this is what the previous research has been conducted on, this is what the instrument that we use. Okay. And after that, the final thought, you close the loop. Sorry, the finding. Sorry. After that is the finding. What do you get? Okay. When you produce a theoretical framework, of course, you critically review the previous theory and you end up with specific theory for your PhD research. Of course, you will discuss on the finding. How do you end up with the theory? You end up with the theory. Okay. And at the end of it, you have your final thought, which is actually conclusion. Okay. And the methodology, this is a diagram or methodology that you can put in the methodology section of the concept-based article. So no data, but you can still produce an article. Okay, while waiting for you to collect your data, during semester 4 or semester 5. So that is what I can share about producing research with data, without data, and also a concept-based article. So I think that's all my sharing session. Let me stop sharing the screen. And if there is questions from the WebEx and from the face-to-face attendant, you can just ask. Okay, anyone would like to ask question? I hope you get ideas to produce article. What? In WebEx, if anyone in WebEx would like to ask question, I will give a slide and all the samples of article to Dr. Fadil, and he will put it in one link, and you can download it later on. Okay?
Because now the framework has been published at that point. Because now you have been published.
Yeah. When you have a theoretical framework and conceptual framework, you also can produce an article. But you cannot penetrate Q1 article. It's unless you somebody. Unless you are somebody, you're producing a very unique theoretical framework. You're a good researcher with high index. Of course, might be some of the quartile journal that accept the article. But Scopus journal, you can publish. You have to find the right Scopus journal. Okay? And of course, you carry your supervisor name as a second author in the article. If your supervisor is somebody with a high index and everything, of course the journal will accept it. Okay? Because you know what? Journals will accept your articles because they would like to increase also citation for that journal. That's why you have to find a very unique ways of doing the theoretical framework. Okay? Not a common way. Okay, anyone from WebEx, if you would like to ask question? Anyone? I hope today's session can just assist you a lot in producing articles before you collect your data. Okay? Yeah, Aminu, you have question?
Yes, Prof. I have a question. Prof, I need more explanation about that data analysis.
Oh, meta-analysis. Okay, let me explain it. Okay, I did not put in detail. Can you just mute back, Aminu, because we have a noise. Okay, I did not put the details about what you call it. How do you do? But I will explain on you on meta-analysis. What does meta-analysis? Meta-analysis mean of? Like just give me about 30 seconds to find a proper slide. Because I'm okay here. So what does meta-analysis mean of? Okay. Just wait for a while. Yeah, I will show you after this. Just wait. I'll try to find the right slide to show you on what does meta-analysis mean of. Okay. Okay. Just wait for a while. Not this slide. I have different slide. Okay, here I think. Okay. Just wait, I will share you the slide. Okay. Meta-analysis, what does the meta-analysis is all about? Let me share the slide. Okay. It's actually not part of today's session, but I will explain it because I have everything about the meta-analysis. Okay. In a meta-analysis, what does it mean of is that very interesting part of meta-analysis. Okay, just wait for a while. It's in a mood of slideshow. Okay, so in a meta-analysis, what you are doing is that, okay, you will do an inferential analysis on the effect size of every article that you extracted from the previous or literature review. Meaning that, okay, to do a meta-analysis, okay, to do a meta-analysis, it will involve inferential analysis. So what types of data that you analyze is that, for example, let's say I plan to do a meta-analysis on the effects of mobile learning towards student motivation. So what I did is that I will find all articles, okay, on certain year, duration, and certain context on research that been conducted about mobile learning and motivation, but the research must use experimental research design. And it must have effect size calculated in the article or not calculated. Because if the effect size has not been reported in the article, I can calculate it if they give me correlation coefficient. So what you do is that in meta-analysis, you get all the articles, you extract the effect size, but if they did not reflect the effect size of the experimental research, the effect of mobile learning towards motivation, then I will calculate the effect size. To calculate it, okay, usually there are many ways. Some of researcher, to calculate the effect size, they are just take the correlation coefficient reported as an effect size. You can do that. If they not report it, you can calculate it if they give you t value, f value, or beta value. So how do you calculate it? You use this formula to calculate it. Okay. So effect size estimation, what you do is that unreported statistic such as mean, ST, and t value. Solution 1, if the result are insignificant and result are not reported, you quotes the effect size as 0. If they did not report the insignificant result anything, you will put the effect size as 0. So with that, okay, solution number 2, you just can take the significant or p value given, then you assume it as an effect size. Okay, or you can calculate it. Okay, this is where after you calculate it, okay, using Cohen-D and everything, so you this is the p value, the way that you calculate. So there are another formula to calculate it, converting the Cohen-D to hedges and everything. Yeah, this is detail. I'm not going to teach it today. Okay, so you can actually do that. At the end of it, okay, this is the detail about it. Okay, at the end of it, how do you report it? Okay, this is how you report it. Wait, you report meta-analysis. It's just like this. Okay, this is how you report meta-analysis. Okay, you will report it. Okay, Carol, Brad, Pat, Donald, Stephen, Young. That is previous research that has conducted research in experimental design, and it has an effect size there. Okay, and it has an effect size, and you will report it and you will compare the effect size. You will analyze the effect size through inferential analysis to get the overall effect size. So you will report like this, and at the end, you will report, sorry, what does it mean? Okay. Okay. So you will report your finding like this. This is meta-analysis. Okay. So meta-analysis is where you analyze the existing effect size from the previous research. Okay. Another way that you can report it, because you will report it using forest plot. They call it forest plot. This is another way for you to report it. Okay. So meta-analysis is where you will do an analysis on the previous research that conducted through experimental research. If the research do a survey, research, qualitative, you will exclude it as a paper that you're not going to analyze it as part of meta-analysis. Okay, so I hope that I can answer you. What is the question? Can we get the meta-analysis slide also, Prof, for reference? And later on, I will give it to Dr. Fadil, because it's not part of today's session. What else? Okay, yes, I will give the slide to Dr. Fadil. Don't worry. I will give the slide and the recording later on when we're done to our colloquium secretariat. And Dr. Fadil will share it to all of you. Okay, I hope I answer all questions. Yes, Aminu, you have another question?
Prof, that's all.
Okay, thank you. What? You don't have any question, eh? Okay. Who else would like to ask question?
I just want to ask, if you want to do SLR, what is the appropriate time frame for you to take? For example, like the journal, is it like within 5 years or within like 5 years?
Okay. Okay, I give a tips, and there's no specific duration. There's no specific duration. How long, how do you exclude or include your article? There's no specific duration. But usually what you can do is that it depends on the numbers of articles that you get. Okay, if you put the time frame, if you put the time frame to 30 years, then suddenly you have to analyze 400 articles. That's impossible. Okay, usually in systematic literature review, if you do it alone, okay, just you do it alone with your supervisor, might be up to 30 articles is already enough. 30 articles is already enough. But make sure that 30 articles is within certain year, like 10 years. 10 years is just enough. Don't take it 5 years. But it depends. It depends. It depends on the topic. It depends on the topic. For example, what should I say? For example, COVID-19 has changed a lot on the way of people teaching and learning. I think before this, learning through video is not really important. Before COVID, nobody would like to learn through video because everybody will learn through face-to-face. But after COVID, there's so many recorded video, isn't it? You need to produce a video. Even TikTok has been popular after COVID-19. YouTube has been maintained as the highest, the popular tools that the student use, isn't it? So if you would like to analyze on the video-based learning, might be you need to consider the duration quite longer because before this they are not using maybe social media to distribute the video and so on. They might be using the internet. You can download just video, but now with the technology developments, they're using YouTube and so on. So it depends because systematic literature review actually is totally about you. How do you decide the article? You are the one who decide the inclusion and the exclusion criteria. But be systematic in using the inclusion and exclusion criteria. Okay, so for me, 30 articles is enough. The duration of 8 to 10 years is enough, but don't take it within 3 years. No, because within 3 years you might be cannot get a patent. Okay, but then if you do it in a group, yes, you can review up to 50 years. You might be review about 250 articles because the author of the articles, the one who produced the article, more than 10 authors, might be. So if you and your supervisor is only the one who doing it, I think 30 articles is enough. Within 8 years is enough. Okay, and be specific. Might be to make it specific. Sometimes you just look into it, the scope of the research, the variable that the research use. Then you can actually limit the articles to a reasonable numbers that you can review by yourself. Okay. Okay. What else? That's all?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. My last advice to everybody, don't wait until you get data, then you start to produce articles. You produce an article as soon as possible. Remember, you can start with your conceptual and theoretical frameworks to be a concept-based article, and usually will fall under the model types of conceptual articles. Okay, and try to find any Scopus journals where you can publish. Or if you totally in first and second semester of study, remember, one of the requirements for you to submit your thesis is not only Scopus and WOS or ERA. If you publish in my site journal also, it will be counted as a publication requirement. So if you produce a concept articles, go for my site journal. Okay, my site journal is actually based on Malaysian database because it will be counted. If you publish in two my site journal, you pass to submit your article, your thesis. Sorry. The requirement for the new student, those who actually in second semester right now, or I think in third semester also, if you're in third semester right now, the requirement of publication to submit your thesis, either 2 articles in my site journal, or 2 articles in Scopus or ERA, or 1 article in WOS. So why not publish in my site? At least you have 1 already, concept-based article. So if you do a systematic literature review, try to find Scopus. Even if you're lucky enough, your topic of research is very unique, concept-based article also can be accepted by Scopus. Okay, so all then to all good luck and all the best in your study. Okay, what else? Okay, that's all. Okay, see you in the next colloquium. Assalamualaikum. Okay,
Thank you, Professor. Thank you very much.
thank you.